Dr. Margaret Meg Sinclair stared at the seemingly random sequence of letters dancing before her tired eyes as the autumn rain drummed against the windows of Bletchley Park. At 29 years old, she was one of Britain's most brilliant mathematicians, recruited from Cambridge University in 1940 to join the ultra-secret government code and cipher school. For 3 years, she had been working 18-hour days in Hut 6, breaking German military codes that revealed Hitler's most closely guarded secrets. But the message she was decoding on this October morning in 1943 would prove to be the most significant intelligence breakthrough of World War II. Meg's path to Bletchley Park had been unconventional for a woman of her generation. Born to a working-class family in Manchester, she had demonstrated exceptional mathematical ability from childhood, solving complex problems that challenged university professors. Her father, William, worked double shifts at a textile mill to pay for her education, understanding that his daughter possessed an extraordinary gift that could transcend their family's modest circumstances. Her mother, Eleanor, had been a school teacher before marriage and recognized early that Meg's mathematical intuition was something truly exceptional. At Manchester Grammar School, Meg had astounded her teachers by solving university-level calculus problems at age 14. Her mathematics instructor, Dr. Harrison, had personally written to Cambridge University recommending her for early admission. In 30 years of teaching, he had written, "I have never encountered a student with such profound mathematical insight. Miss Sinclair doesn't just solve problems, she sees mathematical relationships that elude trained mathematicians." Cambridge University in the 1930s was not welcoming to women, especially those from working-class backgrounds. Meg faced discrimination from professors who believed mathematics was unsuitable for female minds, and social isolation from wealthy classmates who viewed her as a curiosity. But her mathematical abilities were undeniable. She completed her doctorate in 3 years instead of the usual 5, writing a dissertation on probability theory that was immediately recognized as groundbreaking work in the field. When war broke out in September 1939, Meg had been teaching mathematics at Manchester University, conducting research that was advancing the theoretical foundations of statistical analysis. Her peaceful academic life ended abruptly in February 1940, when 2 mysterious government officials appeared at her office with an offer that would change everything. They spoke vaguely about important war work requiring her specialized mathematical skills, but the secrecy surrounding their mission intrigued her scientific curiosity. What would you do if mysterious government agents offered you a chance to use your skills to help win a war? The journey to Bletchley Park had been surreal. Meg traveled by train to the small Buckinghamshire village, expecting to find some sort of government research facility. Instead, she discovered a Victorian mansion surrounded by hastily constructed wooden huts, the entire complex bustling with activity that seemed to have no obvious purpose. Security was extraordinarily tight, with guards checking identification at multiple checkpoints and stern warnings about the consequences of discussing anything observed on the premises. The reality of Bletchley Park exceeded even Meg's considerable imagination. Hidden behind the facade of an unremarkable country estate, the facility housed over 9,000 of Britain's most brilliant minds, all working on the monumental task of breaking enemy codes. The work was so secret that families couldn't know what their loved ones were doing, creating a strange world where genius-level intellects labored in complete anonymity to win the war through mathematics rather than bullets. Meg was assigned to Hut 6, which specialized in breaking German Army and Air Force codes, particularly those generated by the infamous Enigma machine. Her first sight of an Enigma device had been both fascinating and intimidating. The machine looked deceptively simple, a keyboard connected to a series of rotating wheels and electrical circuits, but its mathematical complexity was staggering. Each keystroke created different electrical pathways through the machine, generating encrypted letters that followed no apparent pattern. The German military used Enigma machines for virtually all their sensitive communications, from strategic planning at the highest levels to tactical coordination between field units. German commanders believed their codes were absolutely unbreakable because the number of possible machine settings exceeded 150 trillion combinations. Even if Allied forces captured an Enigma machine, they would need to know the exact daily settings to decrypt intercepted messages, and those settings changed every 24 hours. Meg's mathematical training had prepared her well for the intellectual challenges of cryptanalysis, but nothing could have prepared her for the psychological pressure of knowing that her work directly affected the survival of Allied forces. Every German message she failed to decode might contain information about planned attacks, troop movements, or strategic operations that could save thousands of lives. The weight of that responsibility was crushing, driving many code breakers to nervous exhaustion within months of their arrival at Bletchley Park. The mathematical techniques required for breaking Enigma codes pushed the boundaries of existing statistical theory. Working with primitive mechanical computers called bombs, Meg had to identify subtle patterns in seemingly random letter sequences, using probability analysis, frequency distribution, and logical deduction to unlock messages that revealed German battle plans and strategic intentions. The work required not just mathematical skill, but intuitive insights that bordered on artistic inspiration. Meg's first major breakthrough had come in August 1941, when she developed new statistical methods for analyzing the frequency patterns of encrypted German messages. Her techniques reduced the time required to break typical Wehrmacht communications from days to hours, dramatically improving the value of intercepted intelligence. By 1942, she was recognized as one of Bletchley Park's most effective cryptoanalysts, capable of breaking codes that had defeated other experienced code breakers. The personal cost of this success was enormous. Meg worked 16 to 18 hours per day, sustained only by black coffee, cigarettes, and the knowledge that her mathematical analysis was contributing directly to Allied victory. She had no social life outside Bletchley Park, no relationships that weren't constrained by secrecy requirements, and no way to share her professional achievements with family members who wondered why their brilliant daughter had disappeared into mysterious government work. The message that would change everything had been intercepted by British listening posts at 0347 hours on October 14, 1943. Transmitted from German High Command in Berlin to Army Group commanders throughout occupied Europe, it used the highest-level Enigma settings and contained over 2,000 encrypted characters, far longer than typical military communications. The extraordinary length suggested unprecedented importance, but the mathematical complexity of breaking such an extensive message seemed almost insurmountable. Standard Enigma breaking procedures had failed completely. The message used new encryption protocols that German security officials had implemented to protect their most sensitive communications. Previous techniques for identifying patterns and probable word sequences proved useless against the enhanced security measures, leaving Meg and her colleagues facing what appeared to be an unbreakable code. For 6 consecutive days, Meg worked on the message with obsessive determination. She tried every analytical approach she had developed over 3 years of Enigma cryptanalysis, consulted with colleagues who specialized in different aspects of German encryption systems, and even attempted completely theoretical approaches based on advanced mathematical concepts that had never been applied to practical code breaking. The breakthrough came at 2:17 a.m. on October 20th, during what would have been her 7th consecutive night working on the seemingly impossible message. Exhausted and frustrated, Meg had been staring at the encrypted text when she noticed something that had escaped all previous analysis: a subtle mathematical relationship between certain letter groupings that suggested the Germans had made a critical error in their encryption procedures. Working with feverish intensity, Meg began testing hypotheses about German encryption mistakes, using advanced probability theory and statistical analysis techniques that she was essentially inventing as she worked. The mathematical calculations required were extraordinarily complex, involving multiple variables and probability distributions that had to be computed manually using mechanical calculating machines. After 18 consecutive hours of mathematical analysis, sustained only by determination and the growing certainty that she was approaching a solution, the code finally began to yield its secrets. As individual words became clear, then sentences, then entire paragraphs, Meg realized she was reading intelligence that would fundamentally change the war's trajectory. Have you ever worked on a problem so complex that success required inventing entirely new approaches to solve it? What Meg discovered as she decrypted the message sent immediate shockwaves through British intelligence. The communication contained complete operational details of Operation Citadel, Nazi Germany's planned massive offensive on the Eastern Front, designed to encircle and destroy Soviet forces around the city of Kursk. More crucially, the message revealed that the attack would commence in less than 72 hours, involving over 900,000 German troops, 2,700 tanks, and 2,000 aircraft in what would become the largest armored battle in human history. The intelligence was extraordinary not just for its strategic significance, but for its unprecedented level of detail. The decrypted message included exact German attack routes, the specific positions of individual panzer divisions, artillery concentration areas, air support coordination plans, and even logistical arrangements for fuel and ammunition supplies. It was as if British intelligence had been provided with a complete copy of German operational plans, offering an unprecedented opportunity to warn Soviet allies and potentially defeat the German offensive before it could achieve its objectives. The message also revealed the desperate nature of Operation Citadel from the German perspective. This was Hitler's last major attempt to regain strategic initiative on the Eastern Front, concentrating virtually every available reserve unit and experienced panzer division in a single decisive operation. If the offensive failed, Germany would be forced into permanent strategic retreat, making eventual Allied victory inevitable. But Meg's intelligence breakthrough also presented British leadership with an agonizing strategic dilemma. Sharing the information with Soviet allies would require revealing that Britain had successfully broken the highest-level German codes, potentially compromising the most valuable intelligence source of the entire war. If Germany discovered that their most secure communications had been penetrated, they would immediately implement new encryption procedures, ending British access to German military planning and potentially extending the war by years. The decision about how to utilize Meg's extraordinary intelligence coup required consultation at the highest levels of British government. Prime Minister Churchill himself reviewed the decrypted message, immediately understanding both its tremendous value and the risks associated with acting upon the information. The solution required extraordinary diplomatic creativity and careful operational planning to ensure that Soviet forces received crucial intelligence without revealing its actual source. British intelligence developed an elaborate deception operation to provide Soviet commanders with the essential information while protecting the Enigma breakthrough. Rather than sharing the decrypted German message directly, they created fictional intelligence reports that appear to originate from British reconnaissance agents operating behind German lines. These fabricated reports contained the same critical information about German attack plans, but attributed the intelligence to human sources rather than electronic interception and mathematical cryptanalysis. The deception required careful attention to detail that would make the fake intelligence reports appear authentic to Soviet intelligence analysts. British operatives created false identities for fictional agents, developed plausible explanations for how human sources could have accessed such detailed German operational plans, and even staged fake radio transmissions that seemed to confirm the intelligence report's authenticity. Meanwhile, Meg continued analyzing additional intercepted German messages related to Operation Citadel, uncovering even more comprehensive intelligence about German preparations. Her mathematical analysis revealed that the German offensive was significantly larger than initially understood, involving virtually every available armored division and representing Germany's absolute commitment to achieving victory through this single operation. The intelligence also revealed critical vulnerabilities in German planning that Soviet forces could exploit. Fuel shortages were limiting German operational flexibility, maintenance problems were affecting panzer reliability, and coordination difficulties between different army groups were creating opportunities for defensive countermeasures. Mag's analysis provided not just information about German intentions, but insights into weaknesses that could be exploited to defeat the offensive. The intelligence Meg provided through her cryptanalytic breakthrough allowed Soviet forces to prepare the most comprehensive defensive operation in military history. Knowing exactly when and where German attacks would be launched, Soviet commanders positioned over 1 million troops, 3,600 tanks, and 2,400 aircraft to counter the German offensive. More importantly, they constructed elaborate defensive positions specifically designed to channel German attacks into predetermined zones where superior Soviet numbers could be utilized most effectively. Soviet defensive preparations were unprecedented in their scope and sophistication. Anti-tank barriers were positioned along German attack routes identified through Meg's intelligence. Artillery was pre-registered on areas where German forces would concentrate, and reserve formations were positioned to respond immediately to German breakthrough attempts. The entire defensive system was designed around the precise intelligence that Meg had extracted from seemingly unbreakable German codes. When Operation Citadel finally began on July 5, 1943, German forces encountered resistance that exceeded their most pessimistic projections. Instead of surprising poorly prepared Soviet defenders, German panzer divisions found themselves attacking elaborate prepared positions defended by forces that seemed to anticipate their every tactical move. The battle that followed raged for over 8 days, ultimately resulting in complete German defeat and marking the beginning of their irreversible retreat toward Berlin. Share your thoughts in the comments below about how individual intellectual achievements can change the course of world history. The Battle of Kursk represented a turning point not just on the Eastern Front, but in the entire global conflict. German armored forces that had dominated European battlefields for 4 years were decisively defeated, losing over 200,000 casualties, 760 tanks, and 681 aircraft. More significantly, Germany's strategic offensive capability was permanently destroyed, forcing them into a defensive posture that would ultimately lead to complete defeat less than 2 years later. The victory at Kursk had strategic consequences that extended far beyond the immediate battlefield. German armored forces that had dominated European battlefields for 4 years were decisively defeated, losing over 200,000 casualties, 760 tanks, and 681 aircraft. More significantly, Germany's strategic offensive capability was permanently destroyed, forcing them into a defensive posture that would ultimately lead to complete defeat less than 2 years later. The victory at Kursk had strategic consequences that extended far beyond the immediate battlefield. Soviet forces, having successfully defended against Germany's best remaining units, gained confidence that would fuel increasingly aggressive offensives throughout 1944 and 1945. German military leaders, witnessing the failure of their most carefully planned operation, began to understand that ultimate defeat was inevitable regardless of tactical successes or defensive preparations. Meg's role in this monumental victory remained completely classified for decades after the war. Official histories credited Soviet intelligence gathering, defensive planning, and military leadership, making no reference to British code-breaking activities or the mathematical analysis that had made the victory possible. Even Meg herself was forbidden from discussing her wartime contributions, bound by secrecy oaths that would remain in effect for over 30 years. The intelligence breakthrough that Meg achieved had consequences extending far beyond the Battle of Kursk. Her success in penetrating the highest-level German encryption systems opened new possibilities for Allied intelligence operations throughout the remainder of the war. German military communications that had been completely secure became accessible to Allied cryptanalysts, providing advance warning of defensive preparations, supply difficulties, and strategic planning that allowed Allied forces to optimize their operations across all theaters.
The mathematical techniques that Meg developed while breaking the Operation Citadel message became foundational elements in modern cryptanalysis and computer science. Her approaches to pattern recognition, statistical analysis, and probability theory advanced the field of code breaking by decades, creating methodologies that would prove crucial during Cold War intelligence operations and eventually contribute to the development of artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. After the war ended, Meg faced challenges common to many Bletchley Park veterans, returning to civilian careers after years of work so secret that its very existence couldn't be acknowledged publicly. Unable to discuss her wartime achievements or explain the advanced mathematical techniques she had developed, she found employment as a mathematics professor at London University, where her exceptional abilities were recognized but never fully explained by official records. Meg's personal life had been profoundly affected by her wartime service in ways that would influence her throughout the remainder of her life. The intensity and secrecy of code-breaking work had made normal relationships nearly impossible, while the psychological pressure of knowing that mathematical errors could result in military disasters had created lasting anxiety about professional responsibilities. Like many intelligence professionals, she struggled with isolation that came from possessing knowledge that could never be shared with family members or professional colleagues. But Meg also carried private satisfaction from knowing that her mathematical skills had made crucial contributions to humanity's struggle against totalitarian oppression. The Battle of Kursk had marked the beginning of Germany's inevitable defeat, and her code-breaking work had contributed directly to that victory. Hundreds of thousands of Soviet soldiers had survived because her mathematical analysis had provided advance warning of German operational plans, allowing effective defensive preparations.
The psychological impact of this knowledge was both inspiring and burdensome. Meg understood that her intellectual contributions had saved lives on a scale that few individuals ever experience. But she also carried the weight of knowing that her work had contributed to the deaths of German soldiers who were fighting for a cause she believed was fundamentally evil. The moral complexity of warfare, even when fighting against obvious tyranny, created emotional burdens that would affect her throughout her life. Let us know in the comments how you think such extraordinary responsibility and secrecy affected the people who helped win the war from behind the scenes. The full extent of Meg's contributions to Allied victory only became public knowledge in the 1970s, when the British government finally declassified selected information about Bletchley Park operations. Historians studying the newly released documents were astounded by the sophistication of wartime code-breaking activities and the crucial role that mathematical analysis had played in military operations. Meg's work on the Operation Citadel intercept was recognized as one of the most significant intelligence breakthroughs of World War II. In 1975, 32 years after her wartime achievement, Meg finally received official recognition when she was awarded the Order of the British Empire for her service to national security. The citation, while carefully worded to protect information that remained classified, acknowledged that her mathematical analysis of intercepted enemy communications provided intelligence crucial to Allied victory in major military operations of World War II. The award ceremony was a profoundly emotional experience for Meg, then 61 years old and approaching retirement from her university position. While she appreciated the belated recognition, she understood that the complete story of her contributions could never be told publicly. The specific details of how she had broken seemingly unbreakable German codes and provided intelligence that changed major battles remained classified, known only to a small number of government officials and military historians with appropriate security clearances. Meg's story began attracting broader public attention during the 1980s as historians gained access to additional declassified documents and began writing comprehensive accounts of Bletchley Park's contributions to Allied victory. Her mathematical breakthrough was recognized as representative of extraordinary contributions made by thousands of anonymous codebreakers who had worked in complete secrecy to provide Allied forces with intelligence advantages that proved decisive in achieving victory. The mathematical techniques that Meg pioneered while breaking German codes found important new applications during the computer revolution of the late 20th century.
Her approaches to pattern recognition, statistical analysis, and complex problem-solving became foundational elements in modern cryptography, computer security, and data analysis systems. Technology companies began actively recruiting mathematicians with skills similar to those that Meg had developed at Bletchley Park, creating direct connections between wartime code-breaking and the information age. Dr. Margaret Sinclair died peacefully in 1994 at age 80, having lived long enough to witness her wartime achievements finally receive appropriate public recognition and historical appreciation. Her obituary in the Times described her as one of Britain's most distinguished mathematicians and a crucial contributor to Allied victory in World War II. Though even then, many specific details of her intelligence work remained classified to protect ongoing national security interests. The small leather notebook in which Meg had recorded her mathematical analysis of the Operation Citadel intercept was eventually donated to the National Archives, where it serves as a tangible reminder of the intellectual processes that changed world history. The pages, covered with complex equations, probability calculations, and pattern analyses written in Meg's precise handwriting, represent some of the most important mathematical work of the 20th century. Today, visitors to Bletchley Park can tour reconstructed versions of the huts where Meg and thousands of other codebreakers labored to win World War II through intellectual rather than conventional military means. The award ceremony now serves as a museum commemorating the intelligence professionals who shortened the war by years and saved countless lives through their anonymous contributions to the cause of freedom and democracy. Meg's legacy extends far beyond her specific achievement in breaking the Operation Citadel message and providing intelligence that changed the Battle of Kursk. She represented a generation of extraordinary individuals who used their intellectual abilities to serve causes greater than personal advancement, working in complete anonymity to protect democratic values against totalitarian threats that sought to destroy human freedom and dignity. Her story demonstrates that heroism often manifests as quiet excellence applied with unwavering dedication to crucial tasks that may never receive public recognition or appreciation. The mathematical breakthrough that potentially shortened World War II by years stands as a powerful reminder that intellectual courage and persistence can be as important as physical bravery in determining the outcomes of conflicts that shape human history. Dr. Margaret Sinclair's contribution to Allied victory proves that sometimes the most important battles are fought not on dramatic battlefields filled with tanks and artillery, but in anonymous offices by dedicated individuals whose primary weapons are mathematics, logic, and the determination to solve problems that others consider impossible to resolve. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment to share your thoughts.